Hello, everyone, and welcome to I don't even know what number, I think 21st episode of PAOK Talk, the welcome back episode. We've been away for a while. Jono, how have things been?
Hey Angela, yeah, 21. It's a big number in the US. I hear. So our 21st episode. It has been a while, man. I've been well. Just life in Australia thankfully is going well with COVID. We have know no major outbreaks, so life's back to normal for the
Good.
most part. So I've been doing well, man. But I've missed doing this with you, and I'm excited that we're back.
Yeah, I know we were talking off air earlier, and it feels like, when you look at it, we haven't, I think it's been since late January, early February, but it feels like it's been longer. And it's glad to be chatting back with you and talking about PAOK soccer and just having a good time. You were talking about Australia and the COVID situation. So how are things going there now?
Yeah, so pretty well, man. We're basically back to normal. I live in Victoria. Melbourne is the capital city of Victoria. So in our state, we're basically like we're having sporting events with 85% capacity of stadium. So that's probably like the best way I can put it to people around the world. So we have a 100,000 seat stadium in Melbourne that we're having 85,000 people go to Australian football games. Like when you think about around the world, like limited capacity in sporting arenas, like that's how well we've gone. We have been going, touch wood, obviously. So things are well, man. Masks aren't mandatory anymore in our state. In one or two other states, there are very minor outbreaks, a couple of cases, and mask wearing comes on and off in terms of it being required. But for now, it's all good. We have a travel bubble with New Zealand, so Australians can travel to New Zealand and vice versa. So some form of international travel has returned. So nah, can't complain. Sports back, local sport. So everything's going well. Like I said, touch wood. So we're enjoying life being basically back to normal here. How about you guys in the US and New York specifically?
Yeah, so I mean it's going well. We have uh, a March, no, May 19th. We have a little restriction coming around where there's basically no more indoor restrictions. Obviously, people still have to wear masks inside, but in terms of, you can set the bar, you can go out and not eat. So things are opening up. I know a lot of people have been dealing with the COVID situation, and I'm sure a lot of people are tired of debating it and talking about issues with it. So we won't hark on it on a lot. But just for those listening in tonight, or, we're recording it, it's May 9th in the United States time. For those that are listening to this episode, it's going to be more about the season as a whole. And we look back at some, predictions, or from halfway through the season up until now, how things have gone. I know John was going to call me out on a couple things, and that's fine. But it's also more of just like a welcome back kind of episode, because John and we haven't spoken in a while. Things have been just busy. Nothing bad, obviously, but with me from my work and coaching, and I know John, he's been studying real hard lately, so we haven't been getting the opportunity to chit chat back and forth. But that's what this episode is going to be. It's going to be more of a like a cafanil kind of talk, where we're just talking. Right? We didn't set up many plans beforehand. I have a glass of tiporo in my hand, so I know John. It's still afternoon, so he's probably not drinking.
Nah,
But
I have two matches later, so I'm just
there
drinking
you go.
water, staying hydrated. Got games to play.
There you go. I'm staying hydrated too. um, but yeah, this is gonna be a fun episode. So, John, which direction did you want to start off this episode with?
Yeah, well, I reckon we just get into the season as a whole. So obviously, like you said, May 9th, as we're recording this, so we still have three games to go in the playoffs. But Bulk's run in terms of the playoffs, so we've moved into second spot, and obviously we've made the cup final too. So, I mean, has the revival of late in terms of form, has that changed your opinion in terms of if we come second? Does that make this a successful season? Or I'm talking now purely in terms of the league. Is coming second a success, or is the fact that we're 20 plus points behind Olympiacos make this season a failure no matter where we come?
Now that second part you said just threw a wrinkle into everything. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with finishing second. Obviously, I'm not happy with being as far as we are from Olympiacos. But when you look at it on paper and on the field, I think they've been the better team throughout the whole season, and obviously in Europe and other competitions. But I mean, if you had told me earlier in January that we'd finish second and we'd make Europe, I would take it. I was not that optimistic that we would be finishing second place. I know you could probably go back to previous episodes that we've recorded, and I've said that we'd finish third, fourth, or fifth. It was looking like that for a while, that it was going to be that instance, but I think that finishing second would be, I wouldn't call it a success because of the fact that we were so far away from first place when we just won the title a couple years ago, and we want to consider ourselves one of the better teams in Greece. I would say I'm happy with it and I'm fine with it, but that's not something that we should keep aiming for. Is just always finishing second and being so far out of first. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean that is the key. Is you can come third but still be in the title race depending on the table. So
Right.
I think the way the season has played out, coming second would be a great result. In the end, it doesn't mean much given second to fourth, we're all entering the Europa Conference League in the second qualifying round. So in terms of that, it doesn't mean much. In terms of the prestige and, player confidence and just the general vibe and mood around the team, it would be good because, I mean, you see we've won like our last three games in the playoffs plus made the cup final, and like all of a sudden there's this positive buzz around the team
Yeah.
and,
Yep.
optimism for next season. So you can never discount what that does to a team and what type of momentum you can take into the cup final and then into the season and the European into the following season and the European qualifiers. So I think given where we were, this is a success, but big picture wise, we're still a long way off winning a title. We're a few players off. We need to bridge the gap between us and Olympiacos. And in saying that, we're saying second would be a good result. The fact that we've won these derbies of late is enough for me because we could lose. We're a few hours away from the artist game at Tulba. We could lose this game and go back to third. Honestly, it wouldn't bother me at this point. The team's made the cup final. The team has won a few derbies, which we weren't doing earlier in the season. So I'm content with this season. I'm content with how we managed to save it. It was a disaster earlier. Not a disaster. It was a bad season earlier. We've managed to salvage something from this season. And I guess the biggest question now of all is, if we win the cup final, Angelo, would you say the season as a whole, including Europe, including what we just discussed domestically, if we beat Olympiacos, which is obviously a massive game, 20 years later we get a cup final rematch. PAOK Olympiacos played them in 2001 in the cup final last. Would you consider this season a success? So all said and done, we end up with a trophy. Would you say this has been a successful season?
Now, my head is still going back to those early European performances when we looked amazing, right? And then we obviously we faltered in the playoff round. The key word for me is success. I mean, I would say it would be a successful season. Now, if you're asking me, am I happy with it from based off of how we performed in August and September? I would have been hoping for Champions League proper play, right? Which now, who knows when the next time we're going to get an opportunity will be.
Well, you need to win the title.
You win the title, right?
Now coming from Greece.
Exactly. But I mean, I think I'd be able to go on record and say it'd be a successful season if we win the cup. And you mentioned earlier about the being the 20 points back. I think, and don't quote me on this, I think I remember I said on a previous episode that we'd have to go 10 points into the playoffs away from Olympiacos. But obviously, we were further away. But I think I said that would be a successful season. Obviously, we're farther away from that. But would you say a championship, a title in the cup would be a successful season?
For me, and I mean, people might think that it's, a small club view, which I know you've had strong opinions on. I think everything, the season changes, your goals kind of change, you shift the goalposts. Where we were in February, in March, um, like we've come a long way in
Right.
terms of performance, in terms of results. For me, if in one of our worst seasons, probably since Igor Duterte,
Yep.
right, in 2015
Yep.
16, if we can come second and win the cup, that's a successful season for me
Or
at this
or does
point.
that say more about Greek soccer?
Like, look, it probably does, but then we're going to get into a whole other discussion
Yeah.
and look into it a lot deeper. It probably does, but in terms of purely from our club's perspective and from where we came from only a few months ago, I think it would be a success. Losing the cup final would be hard, but I think a trophy. I think if we can come out of this season and say we were awful at times, we sacked a coach, another coach came in. We've shifted formations a couple of times, and we still came second. Yes, 20 plus points behind, but we won a cup. I mean, I think that's something that we should be happy with as fans. And yes, there is room for improvement. And the title race was over in February, probably January,
Yeah.
late January, early February, just isn't acceptable. But everything considered, I would say win the cup. It's a successful season. It comes down to that for me at this point. Because also this Olympiacos team over the last 2 seasons, when it has coincided with us sliding a little bit, they've been huge. They've only lost 3 games domestically, two of
Right.
them to us. So to take a trophy off them when when they've been making strides in terms of their level, well, not strides, but they've been maintaining a good level for Greek standards and even for
Mm-hmm.
European standards, right? They're having runs in the Europa League. I think it would be a big feat, and so yeah, I would say it is a successful season if we win the cup. But I
Right.
mean, remains to be seen. We're a couple weeks away, so I mean, I'm excited for that game already. I can't wait. It's going to be huge.
Yeah, we're gonna do a preview on that, so you guys stay tuned for that. You mentioned Garcia earlier. He was playing a 4-2-3-1 pretty much. Since he came apart, and we've been playing a 4-2-3-1 as a club since. And I'm looking at the previous games, December, right, or 4-3-3. There's a shift in tactics and formation from that Olympiacos game where we won 2-0. And Pascalis will deny this to this day, but I have proof on Twitter that we were talking about that lineup when it came out, and we were like, what the hell is this? And we thought it'd be awful. And he told me not to say anything to anyone, but we disagreed with that formation. We come out, we win 2-0. It was just shocking, the change, because Garcia wasn't showing that at the start of his managerial career. But the last, we're undefeated in the last in the last 5 games that we've had that formation, whether it's 3-4-3, 3-4-2-1, any variation of that. What do you think about Garcia's willingness to switch formations and tactics? And, in terms of player personnel, do you think that fits our team the best?
Well, I just think it's interesting that we've gone full circle in this season, and it's a debate that we can have later in the. We've gone full circle in terms of this is the formation that Abel Ferreira was obviously using, and then he left by mutual consent. One of the criticisms with Ferreira was that when we came up against smaller teams, having the 3 centre backs was seen as overkill. We were struggling to break teams down. We had 3 centre backs marking one striker. So going into next season, that'll be interesting to see how Garcia handles that. Um, Look, I've liked it. I mean, it's solidified us defensively. We've gotten results in derbies. So again, this formation is probably suited to the bigger games. But I mean, you look around Europe, like Chelsea have made a Champions League final playing a 3-4-3.
So you're
Teams.
comparing us with Chelsea.
No, I'm saying that you can have success. You don't have to necessarily only be playing big games or big teams that will open up against you to be successful with this formation. You just
Right.
need to have the right personnel, the right tactics. Now, a big part. Now, I'm with you. When that formation dropped, the game was like 2:30 in Australia, and I was going to go to bed, or I was in bed, and I saw the lineup, and I just it just woke me the fuck up. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I was trying to work out. Like Vieirinha was listed as a centre back. I'm like,
Right.
surely not. Surely he's gonna. I was like, anyways, I ended up watching the game because it gave me a shot of adrenaline. I was shocked. So I think that's not a variable, but something that changes his formation is the fact that Vieirinha has gone to centre back and defensively, like I've seen him struggle in one or two instances. It will be something that teams will target moving forward, but obviously on the ball, it gives us something else, right? Like
Right.
it gives us someone who can bring the ball out, who can pass. So I don't know. I think this 3-4-3 is more likely to be more successful with Vieirinha playing at centre back. But again, you'll come up against good teams. Olympiacos will play them in the cup final. Like, they'll probably look to exploit it. Yeah, it's just interesting. Like, what have your thoughts been on Vieirinha going to centre back? Do you think it's something that is going to help us in an attacking sense, or do you think it's just something that will be exploited by the better teams?
And that what you just said to end there, will it be exploited by the better teams? I think that's something that we'll be only able to tell by one other opponent this year, obviously Olympiacos. You look at the teams that we've played this formation against Olympiacos. Yeah, we got the 2-0 win, right? Great. That's fine. They're a very good team. Away to Aris. Aris has been slipping up since then. I think talent wise we're better. They've had a great season. Don't get me wrong, but I believe they had a couple players injured, or um, I think we got a goal early on. I'm not exactly sure, but that was an interesting game. And then home versus Panathinaikos 0-0. Oh, home versus Ike 2-1. Again, we know Ike's troubles recently. That was in the cup game. The last game away in Athens versus Ike as well, 1-2. And we know that they were missing a couple players. So is this a formation that is successful moving forward, or is this again just a product of our league and the teams we're playing? Obviously, a win is a win. Don't get me wrong, 3 points. But is this something where is Virginia going to be able to play in Europe next year as a center back, right, or starting over? I think it's worked well so far, right? I wouldn't change anything. We'll see if Garcia does change anything. We play Aris today in a couple hours, and then Olympiacos away on the 12th, and then Asteras at home on the 16th, and Olympiacos again on the 21st. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what Garcia does, but if it's working, don't change it. But I don't know if it's something that we can continue with moving forward for the next calendar season.
Yeah, and like you said, that'll be the test, and will probably be tested in Europe. But again, it'll also be tested against in a different way, also against the smaller teams, right? So we recall earlier this season when Ferreira was playing this formation, and it was seen as overkill. Like we couldn't break open teams, and it was just we couldn't create, and we had three centre backs on the pitch. So I think that'll be a test too. I think it's easy to switch to this formation in the playoffs when you're playing teams that are of your level,
Mm-hmm.
which is when Ferreira switched to this formation last year too. If you recall, it was during the playoffs that he switched it
Right.
and managed to get our second spot. And then it was at the start of the following domestic season that we started to see some the flaws with playing three centre backs. But I mean, it's an interesting debate to have, and I think the formation holds you in good stead against you're against bigger teams. So in the cup final, I expect it to hold us in good stead and keep us tight defensively. But yeah, you mentioned Garcia obviously, and I know in the time that we weren't recording, I know just through chatting to you and obviously posting opinions online that
Here
you
we go.
got to the point where you were well, you wanted Garcia out, and you weren't the only one. Don't as we know, football fans are fickle, especially Greek football fans, and a few bad results, and people start calling for their heads. Now, I'll just say my piece before you explain yourself and all that sort of thing. people, we watch football a long time. Like, you can't expect a coach to come in mid-season and for things to click. It does a lot. Bad results do get to the point where a position is untenable. That I know, I'm aware of. Like, it's not as simple as give him time, but it kind of is, because the results weren't great, but it's not like we were, you know, like losing. We weren't getting hammered. Like, I don't know. I just think people were quick to call for his head. I had family members that wanted him gone badly as recently as a few weeks ago, before this change in formation kind of turned our fortunes. So I think it's more a comment on football and football fans and Greek football. But I mean, I'll just point to the facts. The times that we've had a coach remain beyond the year in the last few years, we've won trophies. Ivic coached the end of the 15-16, had the whole 16-17, and won a cup, and had us in the league race. Lucescu, I mean, you don't need to say more. He was basically 2 years at the helm, won 3 trophies, probably our greatest ever achievement as a club was, the undefeated double that we got. And now we've gone, Ferreira was going into his second season, got sacked. If we want to go back to those days of sacking like 3 managers a season, then you can forget closing a 20-point gap. You can forget winning cups, because it's just not going to happen. That type of instability is not conducive to being a successful football team. That's just my opinion, on stability. It's got nothing to do with Garcia's ability as a manager, because I still don't know. We need to watch him. We still need to watch him and see how he goes, because I'm not saying that he's the answer. I'm saying instability is definitely not the answer. Now you can tell me why, when you got white line fever and started calling for his head, why you were wrong and all that. No, I'm joking. But you can, so tell me, so share with us your thoughts on why you wanted Garcia gone.
It was the performances. I mean, you watched those games, you fell asleep. It was just boring performances. It was boring soccer from a club that wanted to play in Europe in the Champions League, that did what it did against Benfica, right? And in the early European run that we had, just the style of play was off. And again, I loved Garcia as a player, and I did have my doubts about him as a coach. I'm not gonna track back on them and say they were unwarranted, because I feel that they were, in terms of the style of play. Yes, you can have decent results, but when you're struggling to beat teams that you should be dominating against, when you're scoring in the 90th minute on free kicks, great free kicks that you should be dominating against, that's an issue for me. We are a team, and I've said this 90 times, I'm sure, on these episodes. We shouldn't be struggling against bad teams on a consistent basis, and we were for a little bit. I'm not saying that we are now, but I'm saying we were for a run, about a month, that we were struggling against it. And maybe it was more so just a lull in our team, which teams have everywhere, all around the world, every sport. A couple of games where they just don't play well, right? But I don't think anyone can blame me for saying that there needs to be a change when we're a team that has high expectations year in and year out, when we're a team that has a high salary as we do for Greece, when we're a team that has the experience that we have, right? Those results shouldn't be that close. Now, you look at other teams that have overachieved this season, and then you look at, obviously, Olympiacos. It was tough for them. They often didn't drop points. That's what we did when we were successful at the league level. So for me, it was more about the aspect of the fact that we were struggling in games that we shouldn't be struggling against. And I'm trying to find, that's why I'm talking slow. I'm trying to find, there was a stretch that we...
Yeah, I mean, I have it up here. So our last 3 games of the regular season, we didn't win a game. So we lost to Asteras 2-1. We drew with Addis, where we were down 2-0 until, late, when we scored 2 goals in the last few minutes.
Yep.
And we lost to Panathinaikos. And we started the playoffs a bit patchy too. We had a loss to Panathinaikos, a draw with Asteras, and then the change in formation came. We had a win with AEK in there as well.
Right.
So no, what you're saying, I mean, the results back you up, and yeah, I mean that's fair. So continue. The results weren't great.
No, and for me, it was just the performances, right? We couldn't watch the game and say we were fully being entertained, right? It wasn't beautiful soccer. Would you disagree there?
I'm not. No, it wasn't entertaining. But I mean, I don't personally. I don't watch PAOK to be entertained. Like that's not why I watch my team play. I want my team to win. Like if I want to
Right,
be entertained, I'll go watch a movie. That's just my opinion, though. Some people philosophically have different views on football, which is fair enough.
right. But ultimately, when you're playing a team like who's at the bottom of the table, you should, if you're Pauk, be able to dominate them, right? So that's just that's my take on things. That we struggled, but I mean, look where we are now, right? So I mean, it's not complaining. I'm not complaining now where we are, second place and in the cup final. So we'll see what happens in the next three games. Even if we lose all three, so be it. We have to focus on the cup final, and as you said, we're already solidified in European spot. Looking ahead at the European Conference League, we have an interesting path as of now, right? All these teams can change. We are going to be in the second qualifying stage or the second qualifying round through the league path. That's a definite. We have been solidified in that spot. For those that don't know, there's a spreadsheet out there on the forums, on the Fontes forums, that show the prospective teams that we could be playing, and it's bolded if they're qualified 100% that in that location, and then it's as of this moment. So things can change based off of standings in their domestic leagues. Looking ahead at this, would you say for next year's European campaign, it would be a failure if we don't make it to the group stages of the Conference League?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's looking at this list, and like you said, there's obviously the chance that it changes because the domestic leagues are still going. The next couple of weeks, we'll know for sure what happens. Um, so we'll just have to see how we go. But yeah, I think it will be a failure. We need to look at like there are some good teams though, Angelo. Still, like
There
I
are.
don't know. It just depends. It depends on your draw. Like if we get
Mm-hmm.
to the third qualifying round or the playoff round and get a Partizan Belgrade, Mold, Molde from Norway, who I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it.
I don't know if there's any Norwegians listening to our podcast. So
You don't know,
we're,
man. You
we're
don't know,
fine.
but nah, fair point. Like Mulder has knocked out Aris in previous years. I'm pretty sure they made the knockout stage this year. So
Yep.
just because their coefficient hasn't the knockout stage of the Europa League, just because their coefficient hasn't caught up doesn't mean they're bad teams. So as always with me, I tend to be pragmatic with these things. It's draw dependent, but as a
Mm-hmm.
general, like just throwing a quick eye over these teams, yeah, I think we should make the group stage. But again, we'll just see how the draw goes, and I mean, there's still a long way to go. Would you agree with that, or do you think that there's enough good teams here that we're going to have a challenging time getting through three qualifying rounds? It's a lot of football to play.
He's a lot of football play, and I assume they're going back to the two legs. I don't know if I've seen that or not.
Yeah, I'd assume so, given that all the knockout stages this year in both Champions League and Europa League have gone back to two legs. I'd say that we'll be back to two legs.
Right. So again, I think it depends on the draw. I would say it's a failure, but you could have a tough draw. So we're looking at that the second qualifying round. There's not really a team in the unseeded pot that I would be scared of. We could be matched against with Valarenga again. From that was a while ago. I remember I was actually at that game. The
uh,
yeah the Tumba game, the Pau Valarenga game. But then you go the third group, the third round, excuse me. You have Vitesse from I said that like they're an Italian team. You have them from from Holland. You have Aberdeen. You have Spartak Trnava. Then you have Trabzonspor, Osijek. Some good teams there that could possibly cause some trouble. Then you go to the fourth qualifying stage, and again, like you mentioned, you have Partizan, you have Bate Borisov, you have Molde, Rosenberg, you have. Then you look a little bit down, you have Rubin Kazan, right, who's the lowest ranked team in that qualifying round, but that's probably a team I wouldn't want to face, right? Then you look at the four pots for the group stages, right? If we get to the group stages based off of these four pots, I think we should be able to qualify for the knockout stage. But again, I agree with what you said. It depends on the draw.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like there are some good teams there that you've just named, so you could get unlucky despite being seeded, and get a good team, and end up knocked out, and it would be unfortunate, and it would suck, and it would come with a lot of criticism and negative energy around the team. So, but I mean, that's just something that I think we need to remain pragmatic about. That Greece's level has dropped a lot
Yes.
by way of European standards. So, just because we don't recognize a team as a bigger name, doesn't mean that they're not at our level or better. Um,
I
and
mean,
it's
I
disappointing.
know there's definitely one team that we should be able to beat if we match with them. Some random team named Kolos Kovavica. Do you know about them?
Of course, man. They not end our friends Addis European run this season.
That was a shot I took at them, by the way, just now.
I know. That's what I was trying to be. I was trying to join you there, but yeah. Anyways, we're obviously missing a bit of synergy. It's been a while.
Yeah. So I mean, any final topics you want to bring up? Any questions? Any goodbyes? Anything you want to? Well, goodbyes. Hopefully, it's not goodbye. Hopefully, it's just for a week. Any final thoughts?
Nah, it will be only for a week. We will be back next week with a comprehensive preview of the cup final, which I'm really looking forward to that. Chatting with you again. It was just good to be back, Angelo, and we thank everyone. There was a few people on a few different platforms that expressed, them missing the podcast. So we thank them for reaching out and getting in touch and making us make the time to record this. So yeah, thanks to everyone who listens, and as always, share it around on Instagram, on Twitter, on social media, wherever. Give us likes, give us views. It drives Angelo to get his drunk ass to the mic and record another episode. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people on Twitter that reached out to us, and when I posted that we were in the talks of coming back and having this episode, there's a lot of likes, and I've got some DMs and some replies and all positive comments. So thank you to you guys, and obviously we do this so the 50 to 60 people that listen enjoy it, um, and that's fine, right? I mean that's where we are right now, and we're looking forward to spreading PAOK Talk. Hopefully, before the season's over, we get some more followers on the social media platforms. But again, go follow us. We're PAOK Talk on Instagram, Twitter, and you can find us on there where we post updates, any rumors, especially with the transfer window coming around for the summer. So make sure you follow that there. And we like to interact with our fans and followers, so be sure to comment as much as you can. So thank you all for listening to our welcome back episode of PAOK Talk, and stay tuned for more episodes heading forward. Jono, thank you, and everyone have a good night.